The building doesn't have a sign. You are driving through Fort Meade, Maryland, past 3 checkpoints, 2 fences topped with razor wire and armed guards who scan your credentials twice before waving you through. You arrive at a complex so massive it has its own zip code, its own police force, its own electrical grid, 18,000 parking spaces in the lot. But no sign on the building, no logo, no letters, just black glass reflecting the sky back at itself. The people who work here call it Crypto City. The intelligence community calls it the Puzzle Palace. Everyone else calls it something simpler. No such agency, because for decades the United States government wouldn't even confirm this place existed. You are standing at the entrance of the National Security Agency, and you are about to walk through a door that locks behind you for the rest of your life. Level 1. The applicant. You applied 9 months ago. You filled out a form called an SF-86, which is 127 pages of your entire life, written down in ink. Every address you've lived at since you were 18. Every foreign contact you've ever had. Every drug you've ever used. Every debt you owe. Every relationship, every roommate, every trip outside the country. They want to know about the speeding ticket from 2016. They want to know about your college roommate's political views. They want to know if your second cousin once removed has ever worked for a foreign government. You think they're being thorough. They're not. They're being basic. The real investigation hasn't started yet. 2 FBI agents show up at your parents' house on a Tuesday afternoon. They sit in the living room and ask your mother questions for 90 minutes. What was he like as a teenager? Did he have anger problems? Does he drink? Does he gamble? Has he ever expressed sympathy for any foreign government? Your mother calls you afterward, confused and slightly frightened. You tell her it's just a background check. You don't tell her the agents already talked to your high school English teacher, your college advisor, your ex-girlfriend, your landlord from 3 apartments ago, and the manager at the grocery store where you worked summers. They talk to people you forgot existed. They check things you didn't know could be checked. Library records, internet history, financial transactions going back a decade, travel patterns, social media posts you deleted 5 years ago. Deleted doesn't mean gone. Not to these people. Then, the polygraph. You sit in a grey room strapped to sensors that measure your heartbeat, your breathing, your skin's electrical conductivity. The examiner asks control questions first. Is your name what you said it is? Are you sitting in a chair right now? Then the real questions begin. Have you ever sold classified information? Have you ever been approached by a foreign intelligence service? Have you ever committed a crime you were not caught for? The polygraph doesn't actually detect lies. It detects stress. But you don't know that. Your palms sweat. Your heart rate spikes on questions that shouldn't spike at all. The examiner watches you with the practiced patience of someone who has broken 1,000 people in this chair. Some applicants fail here, not because they lied, but because their bodies betrayed them. Anxiety reads exactly like deception to the censors. You pass. Barely. 3 weeks later, a letter arrives. You've been granted a TSSCI clearance. Top secret sensitive compartmented information. Fewer than 1.5 million Americans hold this clearance out of 330 million. You are now authorized to access information so sensitive that its unauthorized disclosure could cause, and this is the official language, exceptionally grave damage to national security. You don't know what that information is yet. You just know you are never allowed to talk about it, ever, to anyone, for the rest of your life. Level 2. The Trainee. Your first day at Fort Meade. You walk through the main entrance past a wall engraved with 2 inscriptions. The first is from the Bible. The truth shall set you free. The second is the NSA's mission statement. You don't read it carefully. You should. Everything that happens to you over the next 30 years is contained in those words. They issue you a badge. It's color-coded. Your color means you are new, temporary, not yet trusted with the real work. Doors that swing open for veteran analysts reject your card with a flat red light. Hallways that others walk through freely are sealed to you by electronic readers that recognize your clearance level and find it insufficient. The building itself is telling you your place in the hierarchy. You are given a desk in a room with no windows. The NSA does not like windows. Windows can be read with lasers that detect microvibrations in the glass caused by voices inside. Every room where classified work happens is a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility. No phones allowed inside, no smartwatches, no USB drives, no cameras, no Bluetooth devices. You lock your entire digital life in a bag before you walk through the vault door, and you don't touch it again until you leave. For the first 3 months, you are in training, not field training, not weapons training, classroom training. You learn how the NSA is structured. Signals intelligence, known as SIGINT, the interception and analysis of electronic communications. Cybersecurity, defending American networks against foreign intrusions. You learn the legal frameworks that govern everything. Executive Order 12333, which governs foreign intelligence collection. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which governs domestic surveillance with court approval. Section 702, which authorizes collection on non-US persons the United States. You learn these laws because violating them doesn't just end your career, it ends your freedom. People have gone to federal prison for unauthorized disclosures. The rules are absolute. The consequences are permanent. You also learn something unspoken, something no instructor says directly but communicates through tone and gravity and the weight of deliberate silences. This agency collects more data than any organization in human history. Every phone call, every email, every text message, every internet search, every financial transaction that crosses an international network is potentially within reach. The computing power in the basements beneath your feet exceeds anything in the commercial world by orders of magnitude. Acres of servers humming in climate-controlled darkness, processing information at speeds that were science fiction 20 years ago. You are sitting on top of the largest surveillance apparatus ever built by any civilization, and you are about to learn how to use it. Level 3. The Junior Analyst. You are assigned to a section targeting a specific country's military communications. You won't say which country. You'll never say which country. Not to your wife, not to your parents, not to a therapist, not to a priest in a confessional. Your job is to sit at a terminal and sift through intercepted signals, radio transmissions, satellite uplinks, encrypted data streams bouncing between government servers. Most of it is noise, routine military chatter, logistics manifests, weather forecasts, personnel transfers. Your job is to find the signal hiding inside that noise. The one transmission that reveals a missile test or a troop deployment or a diplomatic fracture that could shift the balance of power across a region. You process hundreds of intercepts per day. Your eyes ache from 12-hour shifts staring at scrolling data. Your brain develops a pattern recognition reflex you can't turn off. You learn to think in metadata. Not what someone said, but who they called, when they called, how long the call lasted, which cell tower carried the signal, and what that pattern means when compared to 6 months of baseline behavior. Metadata tells stories that content often hides. A general who contacts his headquarters at 800 hours every morning suddenly calls at 300 hours instead. Something changed. A diplomat who always communicates through encrypted channels suddenly uses an open line. Deliberate or desperate. A naval vessel that follows the same patrol route for 6 months deviates 40 nautical miles east without orders. You flag it. You write a report. It enters a system that feeds upward through layers of review. Some reports reach the section chief. Some reach the NSA director's morning briefing. Some reach the president's daily brief. You'll never know which. You just write, submit, and start the next intercept. That is the rhythm of your life now. Level 4. The Cryptanalyst. You are moved deeper inside, into the section that represents the original reason this agency was created in 1952. Code breaking. The NSA was built around a single purpose: break the codes and ciphers that foreign governments use to protect their secrets. Everything else, the surveillance, the cyber operations, the global collection infrastructure, grew around that mathematical core. Your new office is compartmented within. Compartmented. Your existing clearance receives an additional designator, a code word that opens doors further inside the building than most NSA employees will ever go. The work is mathematics, pure, relentless, beautiful mathematics. Modern encryption algorithms are built on mathematical problems that are theoretically unsolvable within any practical time frame. RSA depends on the computational impossibility of factoring products of very large primes. AES depends on substitution permutation networks with key spaces so vast they dwarf the number of atoms in the observable universe. These algorithms are not breakable by raw computation. Your job is to find weaknesses not in the mathematics themselves, but in the implementation. The way a foreign government's engineers coded the algorithm into software. The way their hardware generates the random numbers that underpin the entire system. The way their operators handle keys and passwords and access. Humans make mistakes. Software contains bugs. Hardware develops biases. You exploit every one of them. You spend 14 months working on a single encryption system used by a specific foreign military's command network. 14 months staring at output patterns that appear random, but aren't quite random enough. The flaw reveals itself at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday in March. A statistical bias in the random number generator that collapses the effective key space by a factor large enough to make the problem computationally tractable. You write a classified paper. Your name goes on it, but it will never appear in any journal. No conference will ever hear it. No peer outside these walls will review it. The most elegant mathematical work of your career will live and die inside a filing system that most of the government doesn't know exists. 6 months after your paper circulates internally, that foreign military's encrypted command traffic becomes readable. Generals issuing orders, admirals directing submarine movements, intelligence officers discussing operations they believe are perfectly hidden. They have no idea. They won't for years. By the time they discover the compromise and redesign their systems, you'll be 3 targets ahead of them. Level 5. The Operator. Tailored Access Operations. TAO. You've been selected for the unit that the NSA doesn't discuss even inside its own walls. Your technical skills flagged you years ago. You understand networks at their deepest architectural level. You can write code that exploits vulnerabilities in systems designed by the best engineers in hostile nations. You think simultaneously as a builder and a destroyer. Your job is to penetrate the computer networks of foreign governments, military command structures, intelligence agencies, and terrorist communications platforms, not with brute force, with surgical precision. A firmware vulnerability in a router that lets you mirror traffic without the administrator seeing a single anomaly. A zero-day exploit in a server's operating system that gives you persistent root access through patches and reboots. A supply chain interception, where hardware is physically modified during shipping before it reaches the targets. You've placed implants across networks and countries you'll never visit in person. Small packages of code sitting dormant inside foreign infrastructure. Some collect intelligence. Some provide access for future operations. Some have capabilities that keep you awake at night. Capabilities that could power grids, disable water treatment systems, shut down financial networks, blind military radar. You tell yourself, these are deterrents. Digital warheads held in reserve the way nuclear weapons are held in reserve. Nobody wants to use them. Everyone needs to know they exist. You hope that reasoning holds. Operations run at night. Not because sunlight matters in a windowless vault, but because your targets operate in time zones where nighttime means fewer network administrators, monitoring systems, less traffic to mask your intrusion within, better odds of entering and leaving without detection. You work in a darkened room with 30 other operators, screens glowing blue, keyboards clicking in rhythm, murmured coordination between teams targeting different nodes of the same network. You feel like a submarine crew, silent, focused, hunting beneath a digital ocean that most human beings don't even know exists. Level 6. The Collection Manager. You leave the keyboards behind. You don't touch systems directly anymore. Now you decide which systems get touched. Your portfolio covers an entire geographic region. You manage dozens of collection programs, each targeting a different layer of a foreign adversary's communications infrastructure. Every analyst beneath you wants more data. Every operator wants more targets. Every program wants more budget. You have finite satellites, finite processing cycles, finite human analysts who can only read so many intercepts in a shift. You make the choices. This target gets full coverage. That target gets sampled. This program gets funded for another fiscal year. That one gets cut. These decisions have consequences you won't see for months. The target you deprioritized in January conducts a weapons test in July that surprises the entire intelligence community. A congressional committee demands to know why the NSA missed it. You know exactly why. Because you redirected those resources to a threat that seemed more urgent. And that redirection produced intelligence that quietly prevented something worse. But the success is classified and the failure is public. That is the permanent condition of intelligence management. Your wins are invisible. Your losses make the front page. Level 7. The Division Chief. 300 people report through your chain of command now. Analysts, cryptanalysts, operators, linguists, engineers, security officers. Your division manages collection programs with code names that will never be declassified in your lifetime. Programs that, if exposed, would rupture relationships with allied nations who cooperate in secret while publicly denying any involvement. You coordinate daily with Britain's GCHQ, Australia's ASD, Canada's CSE, New Zealand's GCSB, Five Eyes, 5 nations bound by intelligence, sharing agreements rooted in the Second World War. You know things about allied governments that those governments don't know you know. You know things about your own government that most senators with oversight responsibilities have never been briefed on. This knowledge reshapes you slowly. You stop watching cable news because the news is a simplified, frequently inaccurate summary of realities you understand at their classified source. You know the real version. The real version is uglier, more complicated, and far more morally tangled than any headline suggests. You've been inside the agency for 15 years. Your marriage survived, but carries scar tissue. Your wife stopped asking about your work a decade ago. Your children grew up understanding that their father held a job he could not describe, could not bring to career day, could not discuss at Thanksgiving dinner when uncles asked what exactly he did at Fort Meade. You missed your daughter's college graduation because a crisis required your presence inside a SCIF for 41 consecutive hours. You watched a geopolitical situation evolve on screens while she walked across a stage and searched the audience for your face and didn't find it. She stopped searching for your face at events a long time ago. Level 8. The Deputy Director. You are now one of the most senior intelligence officials in the United States government. You oversee the entire operational machinery of the agency, tens of thousands of employees across facilities worldwide. A classified budget in the tens of billions that Congress approves through a process most legislators barely understand. Collection platforms spanning the globe. Satellites in orbit. Ground stations on every inhabited continent. Undersea cable taps intercepting the fiber optic lines that carry internet traffic between continents. You brief the Director of National Intelligence weekly. You sit in the Situation Room when signals intelligence detects an imminent threat. Your analysis shapes decisions about military strikes, covert operations, diplomatic strategies. When the president authorizes a drone strike, the targeting coordinates often originated from systems your people built and maintained. When a terrorist network is disrupted before an attack reaches execution, your analysts likely identified the network. But you also carry the weight of what went wrong. The collection programs that inadvertently swept up American citizens' communications. The internal audit that revealed analysts querying databases for personal reasons, looking up ex-spouses, checking on neighbors, using the most powerful surveillance system ever constructed for petty personal curiosity. You disciplined them. You tightened access controls. You implemented new oversight. But you understand the fundamental tension will never be fully resolved. The same tools that find terrorists can find journalists. The same capabilities that protect democracy can undermine it. The only barrier between lawful intelligence collection and a surveillance state is policy, oversight, and the personal integrity of the people who sit where you sit. Some nights that feels like enough. Some nights you lie awake and it doesn't feel like enough at all. Level 9. The Director. You sit at the head of a national security agency and simultaneously command United States Cyber Command. Dual-hatted. Two of the most powerful positions in the American national security apparatus controlled by a single person. You have 40,000 employees, a budget that exceeds the entire military spending of most nations, collection capabilities that touch every connected device on the planet. You testify before Congress in closed hearings where elected officials ask questions they're afraid to hear answered. You meet with the president when signals intelligence reveals something that can't wait for the morning briefing cycle. You pick up a secure phone and within hours collection assets on the other side of the world reorient. Satellites shift orbit. Analysts search. The full power of American signals intelligence concentrates on whatever the crisis demands. You know the location of every nuclear submarine operating anywhere in the world right now. You know what foreign heads of state said to each other in phone calls this morning that they believe were private. You know about military operations being planned by nations that publicly call themselves allies and nations that don't bot.